I would like to request our chief guest, Dr. A.S. Kiran Kumar, sir, for the inaugural address. Please join us in welcoming him once again. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, yes. After seeing Director IIRS, TP Das, Shifali Madam, all of you who have gathered here today on this occasion of National Workshop on Space Science Exploration and Career Opportunities. You see the name Space Science Exploration itself would remind you that we are trying to look for something which we are not aware today. And this exploration, if it has to happen, who is doing the exploration? We are doing the exploration. If we are doing the exploration, we should also realize what is it that we have within us to carry out the exploration. Today we are all very familiar. A lot of robots are made, robotic systems are taken around. Today, for example, you have seen India has put its systems on moon, and probably you would also have seen recently the observations made on the moon by these instruments are bringing out new aspects of science which have been published recently. It's only when you are able to make observation and then try to make sense out of that observation, you can learn new things. And each one of us, every human being, if you look at, when we come to this world with certain basic features. Suppose I ask you, how do you make sense of the world around you? What is it that you have for doing this? What would you tell me? Anybody? Any student can tell what kind of features you have based on which you can explore your surroundings. Any takers for the question? Can you stand up here, please? Yeah, what are those sensors you have? Okay. So how many of them are there? How many sensors are there? Okay. So you have 5 sensors through which you can experience the world. See, hear, touch, smell, all that. So we have 5 sensors. Similarly, if I ask you, what are the organs you have using which you can do your external activities? Will you be able to identify them? Hand, okay. Then with hand you can do work. What else? With that you can walk. 2 things are over. Anything more you can think of? Anybody else? Not only her. Huh? No, brain is different. Yes. No, that is all sensors. No, that is input for you. You have a set of sensors through which you can take inputs. Now we are talking about output. As a human system, you are doing some activities. For doing that activities, what are the features you have? Anyway, I'll just quickly move on, please. Yeah, very good. So you are able to talk. The entire mechanism of generating that sound is another output. So you are able to interact with the world by speaking. So similarly, actually we are all supposed to be having 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas for input and 5 karmendriyas for our actual external activity. I'll leave the other 2 for you to decipher later. I'll not touch upon that now. And like in any robot, you also have a controller, something which is within you, which is doing the job of taking inputs from the sensors and then converting that information into action and performing. So there is a controller within you. Now what all is constituting that controller, you can figure out. but I'm sure you will appreciate that there is something like a controller working within you. So now we have identified three items: controller, sensor, actuator. Now I'll give you an analogy with a robot and then come back to the remaining things. Today you have seen a lot of robots being designed and made around. Probably you have also heard of a waiter robot. A robot, if you go to a restaurant, he will come and ask you what you want, then go and fetch the item and deliver to you. So if you see that robot, there are some input elements, some actuators, one controller, and there is a memory where we have written instructions for the controller to pick those instructions and perform the task. So based on that, it can move, it can lift things, etc. Suppose we have designed a robot for lifting an object, let's say 5 kilogram object. The robot does not know what it will lift. It simply follows the instructions and tries to lift that object. So now you have designed it for lifting 5 kgs, but the object may be 10 kg. So what will happen? Do you think it will be able to lift? Obviously, you have not designed for it, so it will not lift. But what can happen? It might damage its arm, it might damage its hand. So you start thinking, what should I do? Maybe first you will say, what if I increase the capacity? Instead of 5 kg, let me design it for 10 kg. But you will realize the object could become 20 kg. When it's beyond what you have designed for. So you will realize that this approach of keeping increasing the capacity is not going to work. It's going to result in a robotic system which is inefficient because you have designed it for 100 kg. Most of the time it is required to do only 5 kg. So you require more power, more things. So it's not a good system. You will think, why don't I design a feature where it will know whether what it is doing is within its capacity or not. That means before lifting, somehow some features are built into that which will tell whether what it is doing is within its capacity. So this is another set of instructions. So now robot has 5 elements: sensors, actuators, a controller, one memory where the instructions are for performing external activity. Another memory where instructions are available for self-preservation and self-protection. That means the robot does not do things which is beyond its capacity, so it remains intact and so it's preserving. Now earlier when we talked about human beings, we identified 3 things: sensors, actuators and a controller. Now the remaining 2 things are there: one memory for external function, another memory for self-preservation and protection. Now do any of you think these 2 things exist within you? Do you think there is a memory within you using which your controller gives instructions for you to perform? So obviously there is one memory which you are creating based on your own learning right from the time you enter this world. See, for example, we speak our mother tongue, every one of us. Why do you think it happens? Suppose we look at this as a problem of a robotic system. What is happening? The child is listening to the sound that is being made around it. Simply it is noise. And that's to start with, it does not know whether it makes sense or not. It's simply hearing some sound through the ears. Now the controller is trying to make sense out of that sound and also generating instructions within itself to reproduce that sound. So as a result of that, what language will it learn to start with? Suppose you are in a Hindi heartland, what language will you learn? If you are in Karnataka, if you are in Germany. So now you see why the human child learns a language which is around it. So the controller is only trying to listen to the sound and generate commands for its voice system. And it's a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time, but then finally it builds. So then throughout your life, you are able to talk because you have stored all these instructions in one memory. Similarly, getting up and walking. you can see that the child is actually mimicking what it is seeing around it. In that mimicking, it could be speaking, it could be learning things. So the controller is able to store all these instructions for performing the various activities. Getting up, walking. For example, you all remember when you have done the cycling, how difficult it was to cycle. But after you learn, you can do cycling and so many more things along with that. Similarly, the elderly people will also tell you driving, how difficult it was before they started. But subsequently, while they are driving, they can do so many more things. So what we can say is the controller is actually learning the whole process of mimicking what it is seeing around. So it created one memory where all the instructions for its external organs, hands, speaking, legs, all came. Now in the robot, we said there is one more memory, which is for self-preservation and self-protection. Now many times when you see a child, you will feel anxious. It may fall, it may do something harm to itself. But majority of the time it doesn't happen. Why do you think this kind of a situation comes? Every one of us can enter this world with a memory as part of our birth process, which may contain many instructions which the controller can take and handle. So now I'll leave this stage for exploration, but I'll take to a different level. That means if you are the explorer of this universe, what you have within you is these 5 elements. You have set of sensors through which you can look at what is happening around. You have 5 karmendriyas using which you can perform. Then you have a controller which is making sense out of the inputs and then creating actions within you. One memory you are creating right from your childhood days, and another memory probably which is there within you, which has come as part of your birth process. That's where many times you talk about genetic, hereditary, etc. So these are the 5 elements with which you are in this world. Now, how does the development happen? How do people start improving on themselves? So if you look at this again, in the very early times, what used to happen? Human beings had to fight with other animals for survival. They were much bigger, stronger animals. They found their own physical strength was not adequate to deal with it. So what did they do at that time? They looked around, they found some stone, sharpened it. Then with the sharp stone, they were able to fight with the animal because whatever impact they made on the animal, they could start off gain ascendancy. Then started taking sticks, fighting from a distance, converted it into a bow and arrow, further distance. That means by looking around, they tried to find some simple tools which could help them grow beyond what their hands could do. Similarly, if you look at how much distance can you travel by your walking in 1 hour? Anybody wants to answer? How much distance you can travel in 1 hour by walking? 5 to 6 kilometers. But did human beings see around them other life forms traveling much faster? Yes or no? Yes. So what were they, for example? Anything you can think of? No, on the surface. Horse. There are many animals which move much faster. So what did the human being do? He started domesticating them, riding them, so that he can travel much faster than what he could have done using his own legs. Similarly, suppose you imagine you are in a mountainous region. There is a heavy wind, rain, etc. Lot of objects keep sliding down. You keep observing, you will realize some shapes move faster than other shapes. If it is spherical, it will roll down quickly. If it is cylindrical, like a fallen tree branch, it will move. So then he realized that some shapes can move faster. So is that the origin of wheels? What do you think about it? So then similarly he saw birds. Today what we have done, we have built aircraft, rockets, you are going out. So what I am trying to impress upon is human being started looking around him in nature and by making observation through the five senses he has got, he started taking inputs and then started developing capabilities which is beyond what the human system itself can provide. So now walking we have talked about, a lot of physical labor that is there, he went on reducing his physical activity. Mechanical advantage, levers, pulleys, they are all simple things by which he reduced his physical labor. And then after that, what do you think he did? Anybody wants to take a guess? After reducing all your physical labor, human beings started doing something more. How about doing your intellectual activities? There were earlier accountants writing by their hand, doing all calculations. Then you started building simple mechanical calculators, abacus, etc. But slowly today we have built huge computers which can do so much of intellectual activity outside. Then when you wanted to see things far away, I could see up to some point. So today you have built telescopes to see far away things. You have built microscopes to see small things. So now what I'm trying to impress upon you is human being as an entity in this world is exploring the world by the sensors he had, by making observations and correlating things. He started developing simple tools and then slowly these tools become more and more complicated and then he started evolving. So what we are trying to see here is space science exploration. So what have we done? We saw last year we landed one object, Vikram lander and Pragyan rover on moon in a region where nobody else had gone. For the first time, India touched in a region of moon and it was able to do something which others had not done. Similarly, if you go back a little bit, you will see that India was the first country to put an object around Mars in its very first attempt. Similarly, if you go back further, 2008, what India did, anybody want to take a guess? 2008. Yes? Chandrayaan-1. And see, by 2008, man had landed on the moon. A large number of probes had touched the surface of the moon also. But still, Chandrayaan-1 gets the credit for discovering the presence of water molecules in the process of water formation. So what does it tell you? Though there were many advanced countries doing a lot of things ahead of us, you can do things which others have not done. If you put your effort, you can do something which others have not done. Now you link it with what I was trying to tell you. Every one of you have such tremendous potential. You have got 5 sensors working for you. You have an asli intelligence which is being mimicked today as artificial intelligence. But every one of you has such a tremendous capability. Then you have got your actuators, all as a system. If you keep observing nature, there are some new things to be done. For example, see, our eye can see what wavelength region? Your eye can see only a specific electromagnetic radiation wavelength region. Anybody wants to answer what is that? Very good. 400 to 700 nanometers of optical domain. But then you also know in the world there are a lot of other life forms which can see beyond what you are seeing. Correct? So what did humans do? They started devising camera systems, sensors which can observe beyond what you can see. So like an infrared camera, or a radar, or a sonar, or an X-ray. That means what you could not see is being shown to you by building tools. So now if you start thinking on these lines, the nature shows so many things. In fact, till today, human being has not created or brought into reality anything, the concept of which does not exist in nature. That means everything that the humans have done, there is a concept in nature, and slowly, step by step, it has moved. So like I said, initially from stone sharpening to bow and arrow, gun, etc. Then by walking to domesticating animals, carts, chariots, then vehicles which are not using the other life form energy, but combustion engine, electric vehicles, like that. Then similarly birds, rockets, like that you are going. So what does it mean? It is always possible for you to do by being a careful observer and then correlating how the observation can be linked to the events that are happening. The entire world activity is only this. So all of you are great explorers. The tragedy many times is our education system does not tell us that we have that potential. A system which is within us, we have 5 sensors working for us, 5 actuators working for us. There is an asli intelligence which is superior to the artificial intelligence which we are trying to create working for us. And then we create one memory which we use as the backup for all our subsequent activities. There is also another memory which has come from work, which also contains so much of instructions which your controller knows how to use. You may not know. But then if you start exploring yourself, then you will become a bigger explorer of this universe. So the lesson that we need to understand is, if you are the explorer of this world, you have to explore yourself to understand that 24/7 this is available to you. See, whatever items I talked about is with you 24/7. You don't have to go to a library to read, or you don't have to go elsewhere. But if you start exploring how you can make a better use of it, you can achieve great things in life. That's what actually, if you see ISRO, what it has shown. I'll just tell a couple of stories before I conclude. 1947, what happened to India? We got freedom. Okay. 1957, there was one very important event for humanity. Anybody want to take a guess what happened? 1957. First Sputnik. That means humanity got a new technological capability of going beyond planet Earth. But India got independence in 47. In 57, when the humanity got this new capability, we were just 10 years into independence, struggling to provide food, shelter, education to our citizens. But at that time, a great visionary scientist like Dr. Sarabhai and Homi Baba, etc., they looked at how can this new capability of going beyond planet Earth bring rapid development in the country. So if you just think about it, do you think it makes sense? Suppose somebody was telling that 1957 when the Sputnik was put, a person in this country is thinking of how can we make this technological capability work for us, for our development. What he knew was, if you put a satellite in 36,000 kilometer altitude, the relative velocity is 0 bits per hour, because Earth takes 24 hours to rotate about its own axis. So it becomes like a tower at a height of 36,000 kilometers. So 1/3 of the globe you can do line of sight communication. So by using a satellite, you can cover the entire country and provide broadcasting and communication capability. See, for that time, an alternate technology was to be used Every kilometer, 1 microwave tower we have to put. India is 3.25 million square kilometers. So how many towers we need? How much time it would have taken? How much money had to be spent? So what Dr. Sarabhai did was, he convinced Americans to allow us to borrow one of their satellites, move over India, and for 1 year in 1975, in fact, this is the 50th year of that event, it is going to be celebrated. For 1 year, in 2,400 villages, ISRO demonstrated to the government that if you make use of the space technology, we can provide information to the entire country. You can bring in quickly communication, broadcasting, and by doing this experiment in 6 states and 2,400 villages, ISRO demonstrated that India can rapidly grow by bringing in information and communication. And then similarly, in our country also now, super cyclone used to kill thousands of people. Space technology, by looking at the cloud motion, you can tell where in the coastal region, if a cyclone comes, we will have that. Today it is possible to do because of that, disaster relief agencies are able to evacuate and save lives. So you can see the technology of going to space was used by India not for military advancement. Otherwise, India is the only country which developed its space program for non-military purpose. But today the situation is different. We have such friendly countries around us, we cannot but use the space technology to make sure that we remain intact. So just the point I'm trying to impress upon you is, technology is available, newer and newer technology comes. You need to use the newer technology for solving the problems you have. And if you do that, as an explorer, you have tremendous potential. Every one of you have such potential. And just tell you, the other day I met a girl. When I met her, she was 13-year-old. At that time, she had already climbed 5 of the 7 topmost points in the world. And then last year, she completed the remaining 2 also, including Mount Everest. And then I met a blind person who can actually do 10-digit by 10-digit addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You just ask the question, he will answer. And then you also know there are people who can do 100-meter running in 9.2 seconds. And then people like Vivekananda said they can remember things once they have read. That means every one of you, because of the 5 things that is within you, you have such tremendous potential. So if you start exploring yourself and explore the world, you can show to others what new thing is possible, and that where events like this and opportunities like this, which when available, you should make the best use of it. Allow your intrinsic curiosity to keep asking questions. Probably all of you remember when you were younger, your parents used to take pride in you, saying, hey, look at my girl, she asks such brilliant questions. Or my boy, they used to tell the story to others. But what happened afterwards? As you started asking questions to them, which they could not answer, they started telling, you are becoming a chatterbox, you are asking all nonsense, because I am not able to answer your question. You have a question which is valid, but I don't want to say what I don't know. So I am suppressing you. So your intrinsic curiosity got in some ways suppressed, but then it only those who retain that curiosity and keep questioning. You take Sir C.V. Raman or Mary Curie. They are all people who did not allow their surroundings to suppress their intrinsic curiosity. So if you same way, if you also remain curious, try to find answers. If others are not able to tell the answer, you find out the answer and tell others. Then you can achieve great things. I can go on and on. Time is becoming 11:30. I will stop here. So I just complete by saying the exploration, what you are talking about, is an intrinsic design feature of the human system. but majority of the time we are not exploring ourselves to understand what potential we have. If we understand this, you can become not only great explorer, but also become torch bearers for others. Thank you very much.